Queen Esther, it shall be granted you. And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom it shall be fulfilled. Queen Esther replied, if your majesty will do me the favor, and if it pleases your majesty, let my life be granted me as my wish, and my people as my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, massacred, and exterminated. Had we only been sold as bondmen and bondwomen, I would have kept silent, for the adversary is not worthy of the king's trouble. Thereupon King Ahasuerus demanded of Queen Esther, who is he and where is he who dared to do this? The adversary and enemy, replied Esther. Is this evil Haman? And Haman cringed in terror before the king and the queen. The king in his fury left the wine feast for the palace garden, while Haman remained to plead with Queen Esther for his life, for he saw that the king had resolved to destroy him. When the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet room, Haman was lying prostrate on the couch on which Esther reclined. Is he attempting, cried the king, a conquest of the queen in my own palace? No sooner did these words leave the king's lips than Haman's face was covered. Then Harbana, one of the eunuchs in attendance on the king, said, what is more, a stake is standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai, the man whose words saved the king. Impale him on it, the king ordered. So they impaled Haman on the stake that he had put up for Mordecai, and the king's fury abated.
Woo, woo, woo! Chapter 8. Chapter 8. That was the end of chapter 7. We're moving to chapter 8. Rachel is going to start chapter 8 with 3 of the verses, Be'ivrit, in Hebrew.
First of all, my costume is real. I am a Girl Scout, and that's what my uniform, that's what I'm wearing. Also, when I'm reading in Hebrew, I cheated. I'm reading the transliteration, not the Hebrew, just so you know.
You didn't have to give that away.
Did I leave my glasses there? No, they're in my pocket. Okay. Bayom hahu natan hamelech Ashverosh leEsther hamalka et Beit Haman sorer haYehudim uMordechai balifne hamelech ki higida Esther mahula. Ba'asar hamelech et taba'ato asher ha'evir ma Haman vayitana limordecai v'tasem Esther et Mordechai et Beit Haman. V'tosef Esther vati dabar lifnei hamelech vatipol lifnei raglav vatev whatever that was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vati chanen lo lehaavir et rabhat Haman ha'agi ve'et mach ashavto asher chashav al hayihudim.
Very nicely done. Let's start with verse 1. Just so everyone knows what's going on.
Okay. All right. That very day, King Ahasuerus gave the property of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. Mordecai presented himself to the king, for Esther had revealed how he was related to her. The king slipped off his ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's property. Esther spoke to the king again, falling at his feet and weeping and pleading with him to avert the evil plotted by Haman, the Agagite, against the Jews. The king extended the golden scepter to Esther, and Esther arose and stood before the king. If it please your majesty, she said, if I have won your favor and the proposal seems right to your majesty, and if I am pleasing to you, let dispatches be written countermanding those that were written by Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, thank you, embodying his plot to annihilate the Jews throughout the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see the disaster that will befall my people? And how can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? Then King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, I have given Haman's property to Esther. He has been impaled on the stake, and not a stake, for scheming against the Jews. And you may further write the king's name and seal it with the king's signet. For an edict that has been written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet may not be revoked. So the king's scribes were summoned at that time on the 23rd day of the 3rd month, that is the month of Sivan. And letters were written at Mordecai's dictation to the Jews and to the satraps, the governors and the officials of the 127 provinces from India to Kush, to every province in its own script and to every people in its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. He had them written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet. Letters were dispatched by mounted couriers, riding steeds used in the king's service, bred of the royal stud. To this effect, the king has permitted the Jews of every city to assemble and fight for their lives. If any people or province attacks them, they may destroy, massacre, and exterminate its armed force together with women and children and plunder their possessions. Oh my God. On a single day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is the month of Adar. The text of the document was to be issued as a law in every single province. It was to be publicly displayed to all the peoples, so that the Jews should be ready for that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. The couriers mounted on royal steeds went out in urgent haste at the king's command, and the decree was proclaimed in the fortress Shushan. Mordecai left the king's presence in royal robes of blue and white, with a magnificent crown of gold and a mantle of fine linen and purple wool. And the city of Shushan rang with joyous cries. The Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor. And in every province and in every city, when the king's command and decree arrived, there was gladness and joy among the Jews, a feast, a holiday. And many of the land professed to be Jews, for the fear of the Jews had fallen upon them.
Excellent. End of chapter 8. Perhaps more gruesome than you remember, but not as gruesome as what I'm about to read. So, I just want to say, a bunch of you studied the book of Esther in great depth with me on Thursdays during our Lishma class, and it is by reading the Megillah together, we are not claiming that it is unproblematic in any way. So we are reading through it, but it is ours to wrestle with. That being said, chapter 9. And so on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, when the king's command and the decree were to be executed, the very day on which the enemies of the Jews had expected to get them in their power, the opposite happened, and the Jews got their enemies in their power. Throughout the provinces of King Ahasuerus, the Jews mustered their cities to attack those who sought their hurt, and no one could withstand them, for the fear of them had fallen upon all the peoples. Indeed, all the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's stewards showed deference to the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai had fallen upon them. For Mordecai was now powerful in the royal palace, and his fame was spreading throughout all the provinces. This man Mordecai was growing ever more powerful. So the Jews were struck. So the Jews struck at their enemies with the sword, slaying and destroying. They wreaked their will upon the enemies. In the fortress Shushan, the Jews killed a total of 500 of them. They also killed Parshadana, Dathan, Avsafta, Paratha, Adalia, Aridat, Parmash, Harisai, Aridai, and Vaisatha, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Hammedatha, the foe of the Jews. But they did not lay hands on the spoil. When the number of those slain in the fortress of Shushan was reported on that same day to the king said to the queen Esther, in the fortress of Shushan alone, the Jews have killed a total of 500, as well as 10 sons of Haman. What then must have they done in the provinces of the realm? What is your wish now? It shall be granted you. And what else is your request? It shall be fulfilled. If it please your majesty, Esther replied, let the Jews in Shushan be permitted to act tomorrow also as they did today, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on the stake. The king ordered that this should be done, and the decree was proclaimed in Shushan. Haman's 10 sons were impaled, and the Jews in Shushan mustered again in the 14th day of Adar and slew 300 men in Shushan, but they did not lay hands on the spoil. The rest of the Jews, those in the king's provinces, likewise mustered and fought for their lives. They disposed of their enemies, killing 75,000 of their foes, but they did not lay hands on the spoil. That was on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and they rested on the 14th day and made it a day of feasting and merrymaking and coming together at KI to read the Megillah. But the Jews at Shushan mustered on both the 13th and 14th days, and so rested on the 15th and made it a day of feasting and merrymaking. That is why village Jews who live in unwalled towns observe the 14th day of the month of Adar and make it a day of merrymaking and feasting, and as a holiday and an occasion for sending gifts to one another. Mishloach manot. Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent dispatches to all the Jews throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, near and far, charging them to observe the 14th and 15th days of Adar every year, the same days on which the Jews enjoyed relief from their foes in the same month that had been transformed for them from one of grief and mourning to one of festive joy. They were to observe them as days of feasting and merrymaking, and as an occasion for sending gifts to one another and presents to the poor. Matanot la'evyonim. The Jews accordingly assumed an obligation that which they had begun to practice, and that Mordecai prescribed for them. For Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the foe of all the Jews, had plotted to destroy the Jews and had cast Pur, that is Lot, with intent to crush and exterminate them. But when Esther came before the king, and he commanded, with the promulgation of this decree, let the evil plot that he devised against the Jews recoil on his own head. So they impaled him and his sons on the stake. For that reason, these days were named Purim, after Pur. In view, then, of all the instructions in the said letter, and of what they had experienced in that matter, and what had befallen them, the Jews undertook and irrevocably obligated themselves and their descendants and all who might join them to observe these 2 days in the manner prescribed and at the proper time each year. Consequently, these days are recalled and observed in every generation by every family, every province, every synagogue in the Lehigh Valley, in every city. And these days of Purim shall never cease among the Jews, and the memory of them shall never perish among their descendants. Then Queen Esther's daughter, Avihail, wrote a second letter of Purim for the purpose of confirming with full authority the aforementioned one of Mordecai the Jew. Dispatches were sent to all the Jews in the 127 provinces of the realm of Ahasuerus with an ordinance of equity and honesty. These days of Purim shall be observed at their proper time, and as Mordecai the Jew and now Queen Esther has obligated them to do, and just as they have assumed for themselves and their descendants, and the obligations of the fast with their lamentations, and Esther's ordinance validating these observances of Purim was recorded in a scroll known as a Megillah. Chapter 10, Barry Cohn, where are you? Bring us on home.
King Ahasuerus imposed tribute on the mainland and on the island. Yes, agree. King Ahasuerus imposed tribute on the mainland and the island. All his mighty and powerful acts and a full account of the greatness to which the king advanced Mordecai are recorded in the annals of the kings of Media and Persia. For Mordecai, the Jew ranked next to King Ahasuerus and was highly regarded by the Jews and popular with the multitude of his brethren. He sought the good of his people and intended for the welfare of all his kindred.
And let us say, Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. We finished a book of the Bible, and now we are going to read the blessing that follows the Megillah. Thank you, Barry. At the bottom of your page, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam harav et rivenu ha'adan et dinenu hanokem et nikmatenu hanifra lanu mitzarenu hamishalem gmul l'chol oivei nafshenu. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hanifra le'amo Yisrael mikol tzarehem et ha'el hamoshiach. In English, blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who fights our battles, judges our causes, avenges our grievances, who fully replays all those enemies of our souls, and who brings us out of our suffering. Blessed are you, Lord, who delivers your people Israel from all who oppress them, the God who redeems. So in a moment, we're going to make our way over to the sanctuary for our Purim Spiel. I'd like to invite everybody to perhaps put a few things in a nearby garbage can, and maybe we can get a large one. And perhaps if there's groggers that you have at your table, maybe you could either bring them with you to the sanctuary or put them in this tub. We need groggers, but we may not need every grogger. It depends on how many groggers you have at your table.
And the spiel is very short.
The spiel is very short, but funny. Funny. It's Purim. It's supposed to be funny. So everybody better sit near the front. Chag Purim, Chag Gadol HaYehudim, Masechot. Thank you. Thank you. You did great. Masechot, Rashanim, Smirot, Rikudim. Havan Arisha. Havan Arisha. Havan Arisha. Bara Ashanim. Purim Day, what a happy holiday. Graggers, rush, there's songs of Purim Day. Hi there. Thank you. Hi. You're leaving? Yeah. No, the spiel is like really short. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you need this, Charlie? Do you need this?
About 7:50. Timing's not too bad. Oh, this will be like 10 minutes. I know, I just hear you. So, John? Yeah? Can you put one here? Maybe. I don't know if I can use one of these.
You can sit in the front. The best seat in the house.
But we're mostly in here. This should be fine. We'll just deal with it. I'll take the one that the rabbi was using. That's not going to get in the way of anybody? Charlie? Not in the way of anybody, right? The microphone that you have.
Asked Charlie if he needed it, he said no. What? No, and there's no rule that says it doesn't stay. It doesn't. It can't stay there on Lizzie's head.
Well, there you go. If you want to work the red, that's fine.
Yeah. Do we have a microphone that can be heard in there? If I speak into this microphone.
We heard you here, so everything.
Everybody in the social hall, it's time to come to the sanctuary. Purim Spiel. Hey, Mr. Brett. Yes. Maura Brett, could you clear the social hall and get everyone to come in here? With pleasure. That would be awesome. Okay, those of you who are already here, you get to hear my announcement. But I hope that the adults who are not in the room are also listening because the microphone goes all over this building. We just read a story that was all about how the Jews were living in Shushan, in Persia, amongst people who were different than them. And the truth is, the Jews have lived amongst people who are different than us for a long, long time. And in fact, here in America, lots of people are different from each other. And so one of the things that we're doing to help celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence this July is we're doing a project throughout the spring for grown-ups to come together in an interfaith context to discuss 4 primary foundational American texts as scripture at different houses of worship. We're going to meet 4 times on Sunday afternoons from 3 to 5, starting this March 8th, this coming Sunday from 3 to 5 here at KI. You do need to register, but we really hope that you will consider being with us. It would be ideal if you could make it to at least 3 of the 4 sessions. It's going to be really interesting and really engaging, and it's going to set us up as a community to create a 4th of July observance that's really resonant and meaningful and helps us come together and think about who we want to be as a democracy and as a country. Time is running short to register in time for this Sunday, so please take one of these flyers. They were on your table. I hope to see many of you there. It's going to be very, very engaging and interesting and a special way to mark this year. Mr. Richter. Anyway, the 4 texts are the New Colossus, the Declaration of Independence, What to the Negro is the 4th of July, and America the Beautiful. So we'll be looking at different ones each time. Mr. Richter, are you ready? Just about ready. Where's the director when you need him? That was funny, Brett. That was good. It was good. Anyone know any good jokes? No? Oh, I'll tell you my favorite joke. You ready? Two muffins are in an oven, and one muffin says to the other muffin, "Hey, is it hot in here?" And the muffin says, "Ah, a talking muffin." What? Talking. Talking muffin. You ready? Ladies and gentlemen, Sushan.
Shalom, Yeladim, and hear us well.
For now is the story of Purim to tell.
It took place in Shushan so long, long ago.
Now off to Persia we all will go.
In this beautiful kingdom ruled a king. A king with no brain. Who would think such a thing? He spent all his days and his nights having fun, parading his wealth in the warm Persian sun.
There's wealth. Oh, wealth, there's wealth, yes. Wealth.
A queen named Vashti was his loyal wife. She promised to love him all her life. She promised, that is, until he did ask for her to perform an unthinkable task. At his grandest of parties, the king did command Queen Vashti dance for the royal men of the land.
I am not your servant, and dance I will not. I hereby refuse this king's sexist plot. No woman should have to put up with you. Hashtag me too.
She shouted and she quickly withdrew. For Vashti, you see, was not known as a fibber. She was, in fact, history's first woman liver.
Vashti was banished. Away she did go. Where did she go? That we do not know.
In this fair kingdom lived also the Jews. Who could not practice the religion they choose. No Torah. No challah. No matzah ball soup. For a villain named Haman had started. For a villain. No, Haman.
Finish the line. I did. Oh. You think there's no way to grab yours. All right.
Bow down to me now.
Cruel Haman did say.
For I am an important man of the day. I'm the king's right-hand man. I rule all that I see. If you don't bow down now, you will all cease to be.
Meanwhile, back at the palace grand, an announcement went out throughout the land. A new queen to be chosen in an unusual way in a beauty contest held the very next day.
All the maidens of the land were forced to appear, from near and from far and from near. One such maiden had brains and had grace. Esther was her name. Such a pretty face.
Shayna Porno.
Encouraged by her uncle, or was it cousin, Mordecai?
I beg you, dear Esther, this you must try. With your brains and your beauty, you would choose. Go, 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 go. Comb your hair.
I'm unsure myself, but I'm willing to go because I love my cousin, I mean uncle. So, I'll enter the contest, but please, Mordecai dear, promise me that you'll always stay near.
The contest was held. They came one and all, and Esther, of course, was the queen of the ball.
Though Ahasuerus chose her, and she was now queen, there was one rotten rule she had not foreseen. Under penalty of death, she had to obey the following rule in an unbending way. Her new husband commanded she could only see him when he chose to see her and on his whim.
So, now back to Haman. That cruel, crusty fellow. At the top of his lungs, he continued to bellow.
Bow down now, I command, or great harm will come to this land.
I, Mordecai, refuse to obey. I vow only to God to my last dying day.
Haman's face turned red with anger and
I'll get you, my pretty, if it's the last breath I take.
Mordecai turned his back, and other Jews did follow. As for Haman, well, his pride he had to swallow.
That Jew Mordecai has ruined my heinous plot. Because of this offense, I will have to draw lots. The straw that I pick, the one that comes nigh, is the day that the Jews of Persia shall die.
into his three-cornered hat he did cast all of the dates, the future, the past. The lot that he picked was the 13th of Adar.
Make ready the gallows. Adar is not far.
Right after Haman, even Esther, went Mordecai to see Queen Esther, stealthily listening at the palace gate. 2 guards were plotting to seal the king's fate. Bigthan and Teresh were the names of the guards. Hearing their plot was terribly hard. Morty heard them, their talk he did broach, planning to kill King Ahasuerus.
Brave Morty protected his king and his land by revealing the plot in the palace grand. The king did not know. He glanced, not a look, but Morty's deed was recorded in a grand official book. The king in his chamber that evening did read of Mordecai's loyalty in the book of good deeds. With the smallest of brains, the king thinked and he said,
Who is this Mordecai who saved me from the brig? Who is this man who faint foiled the guard's plan? I must reward him. Send for Haman! A question to you, Haman, I must pose. How should I honor a man who has been on his toes, who has saved my kingdom through heroic deeds without a single thought for his own needs?
Well, this hero gives honoring most surely.
so, dear Haman. Royal right-hand man, bring forth Mordecai the Jew. This is my command. Instruct all my tailors, my jewelers, my builders, to spare no shekels, no rubies, no guilders. Call all the king's horses and all the king's men to honor this Jew again and again.
Haman, astounded, speechless at that, felt his anger spread from his feet to his chest.
Could it be that this man who refused to bow down must now be honored all through the town? Oh.
Seizing the moment, the opportunity here, Mordecai to Esther did appear. Using his wits and oh so clever brain, Morty made history. Now Esther has fame.
You must risk your life and go to the king and tell him about this Canaanite thing. That Haman is planning to do you. Go, great Esther. This you must try.
My cousin or uncle? I'm trembling with fear. Without his permission, I cannot go near. It could be my life. I'm so afraid.
Without all reply, you can do this, babe. Your brains and your charms and your prettiest skirt and your stainless furnace. What could that happen?
So Esther swallowed her fear, and she calmed her nerves. And she went after this task with vim and with verve.
At a party she threw that very same night, she walked into the banquet, trembling with fright. Although shocked to see her, the king did beckon.
I'll see her. It's fine, I reckon. Oh.
Dear husband, I've gotten some news, so horribly horrible that I did choose to come unsummoned to be by your side. You must listen to me. After all, I am your bride.
That's true.
Risking her life, Esther told him the story of Haman. Dastardly plan, evil and hoary. Esther, still trembling, explained to her mate.
My lord, at the risk of fear in my face, I must tell you something that to you may be news. Someone is planning to kill all the Jews. This includes Mordecai and all of his kin, and in this category you must put me in. For you see, I am Jewish, but so loyal to you. Please don't hurt my people. Please don't hurt the Jews. I fear, my dear husband, unless you act with a heart, I too will die on the 13th of Adar.
Thinking the thoughts a king would sure think,
My royal wife deserveth a mink.
he called for his henchman, his number 2, to question again what he should do. In order to save his wife and her kin, Haman, of course, slunk right in.
Esther, dear Esther, tell Haman your fear. Don't be afraid. I tell him, my dear.
Okay, here goes nothing.
Said Esther inside. She
You
looked.
wicked man, how dare you pretend that you were loyal to my king to the end, that you did plot to destroy all the Jews. Also you'll kill me, whom the king did choose, for I too am Jewish, you hateful old coot.
Turn around. I am the king. I give you the boot. I decree that Jews have the right to defend, that your entire family
you'll be swinging on the 13th of Adar. The moral of the story, you latham, you now know,
is to honor God and all people wherever you go. To stand up and speak out for all that is right. And to you, Hag Sameach, Laila Tov, and good night.
Let's give them one more chance to bow. One more hand. The Seuss Sean players. Thank you so much to Charlie Richter for taking the lead on all of this, and thank you for all of our Purim Spielers. This was terrific. This concludes our evening. However, I want to remind you that at 11 o'clock, No, something else. At 11 o'clock tomorrow is the Purim Carnival at the Jewish Community Center. If you are a child who's enrolled in our religious school, please be at the Jewish Community Center at 10 for a shortened day of fun religious school leading into the Purim Carnival. If you have things in the other room, please don't forget them. Have a wonderful Chag, a wonderful holiday, and it's so wonderful to have all of you here to celebrate. Yes?
a reminder, coming here, March 27th, 28th, Neshama Kralbach, and a spectacular weekend of music and song, and she'll be here on Saturday night with her entire band. There'll be all kinds of wonderful things. Friday night service, Saturday morning kids program, Saturday night concert. It's going to be a great weekend. Tell your friends, be here or don't.
In addition to Neshama being with us, joining her will be the Jewish a cappella group from SUNY Rochester, and they are called the we'll find out their name. So there's going to be choirs and multiple voices. It's going to be a really, really special weekend, so we hope you'll be part of it.
Talks and Torah next Saturday.
Talks and Torah next Saturday.